Welcome to the Motherhood Alliance podcast, the podcast dedicated to empowering moms and families on their health and wellness journey. I'm Brittany Suttner.
And I'm Drea. Together, we're here to explore holistic approaches that go beyond conventional medicine.
Each week, we dive into topics that matter most to you. Everything from nutrition and mental health to alternative therapies and natural living.
And whether you're a new mom navigating the early stages of parenthood or a seasoned pro looking for new ways to support your family's well-being, you're in the right place.
Even better, all of our guests are local small business owners who you can actually talk to and work with. You can learn more about today's guest and connect with hundreds of other health and wellness professionals through our informative and easy-to-use directory at motherhoodalliance.com.
Before we get started, keep in mind that this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only and is not a substitute for personal healthcare advice. Please consult your healthcare provider before making any changes based on the podcast content.
Thank you for joining us on this journey. Are you ready to help your family thrive? Let's get started. Hi, we are Brit and Drea from motherhoodalliance.com, and we are excited to welcome you to a 4-episode series with Faith Ainsworth, who is the owner of Integrated Sensory, a wellness center in Green Bay, Wisconsin that offers a variety of play and coaching-based sensory solutions. Faith and her husband Ian started Integrated Sensory in 2021 after seeing a gap in opportunities within her local community and within her own home. As a mom of 2 young rambunctious boys, she identified early on that they needed ways to meet their own high-energy movement and sensory needs, but at the time there was nowhere for their family to go. Now, Integrated Sensory has a large and beautiful space where they host a multitude of offerings for families with or without a sensory-related diagnosis, including research-based and drug-free sensory coaching, trauma education, infrared sauna, multi-sensory spaces, open playtime, and much more. We're excited to share these episodes with you as we go deep into the topics of sensory integration and behavior, tips for parents on how to support overstimulated kids, how trauma affects the brain and body, and a deep dive into technology and how it affects the brain. Faith is beyond passionate about serving our community and meeting families right where they're at, and we can't wait for you to meet her. So let's jump into today's conversation.
Hey guys, welcome to the podcast. We're super excited to welcome Faith with us today. Welcome, Faith.
Hi.
We are really excited to have a conversation with you today about all things sensory related, talking about integration and trauma and all these other things. And we have a lot to talk about, so we're excited about that. But one thing that we like to do before we start getting into everything is we like to ask our guests some fun facts about themselves. And it sounds like you like to travel. So can you tell us a little bit about some fun facts about that?
I've done a lot of missions trips, which have taken me around the world. I've been to South Sudan and Yay. I've been to Guyana, South America. Been to Mexico to do a lot of actually video work and things like that. So.
Okay, because you actually, another fun fact is that you have a degree in digital
media technology.
Yeah. Yeah. So you went there as mission trips and you did video and such.
Correct. Video and photography.
Okay. That's really cool.
Which of your trips do you feel like was most impactful to you?
That's hard.
I'm sure they each were in their own unique way, but is there one that stands out where you're like, this was a huge learning experience?
So it's funny because Yay, South Sudan, I think it was cool for me because it was actually an orphanage. So my grandparents founded it.
Oh, neat.
Yeah. And it was my first missions trip. It was something about me is probably that I say go big or go home. So anything I do seems to be that way.
Yeah.
But getting to go there and just see the different way of life and the different kids and things like that. It was flying in on a little hopper plane like you would see in the movies. But we stayed there for about 2 weeks. So that was for me to actually finish my internship for college because I didn't want to work at a news station in the area.
Oh, okay. Well, I always say too, everyone should be taking a trip to a different country, a third world country, somewhere else that's different and has a completely different lifestyle and everything else. So I'm sure that was definitely eye-opening for you.
Mm-hmm. It definitely very, very different than life here in the U.S.
Oh yeah, for sure.
When do you plan to take your boys on their first mission trip?
Probably when they're a little bit older.
Because they're how old right now?
They're 4 and 6.
4 and 6. Yeah.
So.
They're a little young.
Yeah. I don't want to do an 18-hour plane ride with them.
No way. All right. So that's awesome. We love hearing about different things that from people and what they've been doing. So Faith, you are a sensory coach. I mean, what would you say your title is for what you do?
I guess I created the sensory coaching system at Integrated Sensory. So I recognized a need and a lack of knowledge in our community and a lack of connection for what individuals needed. I got a lot of different certifications and classes and things like that to best be able to help what I believe people need.
Yeah.
Let's start back with how you observed that need. Wasn't it through your own boys that you kind of sparked this idea? Share a little bit about that.
So my oldest, who's 6 now, he still is very agile. So he was probably, the first time he was 8 months old and he figured out how to open the door and crawl down the sidewalk.
Oh my.
And my husband finds him crawling down the sidewalk within 5-10 minutes. And we're like, okay, what's going on? He hit it was 4 to 6 months old and he stopped sleeping really well at all, which kind of normal in the first year. But this continued on and off until he was about 3 years old. And I remember when he was 3 years old, he was still waking up about 10 times a night.
Oh no.
And every single pediatrician we went to told me it's fine, it's normal, it's whatever. But he's so intelligent and he was so smart that nobody was ever able to help us. So,
oh my gosh.
And sometimes maybe this resonates with people as well. It was taking as much as 3 hours just to convince him to go to sleep. And then he'd be up at 5 or, you try to put him bed at late and he's still up at 4 or 5 in the morning.
Oh my gosh.
Then
That's
what
a
did you
red flag.
identify as the problem?
Yeah.
Or the solution, I should say.
So I had just had some encouragement from some family members to seek out some occupational therapy. They're like, oh yeah, there might be some sensory things going on. He was about 1 when he started walking and then he started climbing thereafter. And then he continued to climb everything thereafter. And as a first-time mom, that was really hard because I have a few of my own disabilities to keep up with.
Oh, sure.
So the biggest thing was the occupational therapy and just seeing the difference in his behaviors when he got the kind of sensory input that he needed.
And so that kind of really made you realize that once he kind of got his sensory needs met, then his behavior was a little bit better. He was
100%
able to,
better actually. He now
and sleep.
Yeah, he actually goes to bed by himself now and sleeps through the night.
Okay. So he had sensory needs. So what is your definition of somebody who has sensory needs, or what kind of person, or what kind of diagnosis? I mean, to be honest, me and Brit, we told you this too, is we don't have a whole lot of background in what sensory integration is, what people who have those kinds of needs are. I know personally, I get sensory overload as a mom. I think we can all relate to that when we explode because there's been too much noise and we may not realize what the problem is, right? So we can all relate to it in a way. But what would your definition of sensory need person kind of be?
So the great thing is everybody actually has a sensory need.
That makes sense. It makes sense.
So growing up, you probably were taught that there's 5 sensory systems, right? So in the past 10 years, they learned about 3 new sensory systems that really actually contribute to your overall well-being.
So tell us about those.
Yeah, tell us about it.
It's morning, so give me just a second here. But interoception is one of them, which is kind of your heart's pounding, your guts are digesting, things like that, and your body is telling that to happen.
So what natural, normal.
Mm-hmm. But your sensory system is making sure that that's happening. Another one is proprioception, and that's actually when I want to say, if I'm remembering correctly, it was part of Marty Smith's book. There's actually parts in your joints when you're compressing, and that helps your proprioception. And that's actually a really big sensory need that we see a lot. Because when you see the kids that are and adults that are running into things crashing, bumping into things, that's them trying to get proprioceptive input.
Right. And that's just the understanding the world around you, right?
Correct.
Like how your body integrates with the world around you.
So a good way to put it is, so if you have good proprioception or not, you're trying to go to bed at night. If you shut the lights off in the room, can you get to your bed or not?
Oh,
sure.
like, okay, like you kind of just know, you kind of have a sense of where things are.
Correct.
Or not.
Correct. Or even like if you're in the car and you're driving down the street and you really can't figure out where you are, why do you turn down the radio to figure out where you are?
That's me.
Yeah.
If I have to focus in the car, for some reason, I'm like, I feel so much better when if I turn off the radio, I can focus. Like,
yep. And that's because your system is becoming alert to where you need. So some people can't have auditory to like, I'm the same way. I'm like, I can't have it.
That's totally me. Yeah.
Or things like that. So another one I like to say for like describing what a sensory need is, have you ever needed something crunchy? Can't think about anything else until you get that crunchy thing.
I mean, sometimes, yeah.
And
Well,
some
yeah.
people,
Yeah.
I'm a crunchy person.
Okay.
So, or like even like chewing a piece of gum or something like that. That's totally a sensory need. Once you get it in your mouth, you can focus.
Interesting.
So then the third one
is called vestibular. So your vestibular system is located inside your inner ear. So a lot of people that are looking for vestibular input, they probably are thrill seekers. They like to spin and swing. And it's really, it's also about telling where you're at in space. But when you have issues with that, they may always seem like they're on the go. So if you can think of anybody like in your life or little kids, let's think about it.
Yeah.
They're always on the go. They're always crashing. They're always things like that. But some kids don't do that. My children are the ones that do that.
I was going to say, so this is probably one where your child was having a need here, right? Like they needed to move more in order to be calm in other times of the day.
So I'll give you a good example of where we were like trying to figure this out. Cause we're like, we did have them moving. We went to the park, we played, right? We do all that. And at the end of the night, I literally remember my husband holding him upside down, having him doing toe touches at like 3.
Yeah.
To get him to get enough input so he could finally relax.
Okay. So then fast forward to, you're like, hey, our kids need to move more. Let's start an entire business around it. Right. So how did you actually like decide to start a business here? What were you doing before that?
I was actually a stay-at-home mom.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Doing the side hustles here and there, but I knew that I wanted to do something, one that had meaning, but 2, like we'd be able to always involve with our kids because we do homeschool our kids as well. So just add on to what we do.
Yeah. So you learned a lot. Obviously, you learned a lot through your son, your experiences with him. And so you got some certifications and you went through some more education for sensory coaching.
Mm-hmm.
And so what is your philosophy in your business? Like, how do you help people when they come to you?
So one of our biggest things that we do is the sensory coaching system. So we do assessments, but something we're looking at in our assessments is called primitive reflexes. So the way to explain primitive reflexes is that they're given to us in our body. They actually kick in when you're pregnant. And they are meant to help keep you alive. Now, the problem is when any kind of trauma happens to the body, they can actually not integrate. And that's when you start seeing things like depression, anxiety, sensory issues, focus issues. It really hits when you get into school, from things like dyscalculia to dyspraxia, behavior issues, emotional outbursts are all associated with them. And some kiddos, to start in adults, they need what's called a sensory bath to begin with. So a sensory bath is when you're getting that kind of movement you need to help your system calm down first. And then we work into the reflex integration with nutrition as well.
I'm thinking high level here, even
Yeah.
just your definition of what you just said, of how much anxiety and depression is prevalent in the world these days and how much we sit. Even if you're just talking about somebody who maybe doesn't have a high and obvious sensory need, but like that is like a huge correlation of what you just said.
So what's really fascinating is experts estimate it's about as much as 80% of kids actually still have a retained primitive reflex.
So what does that mean?
That means there's a lot of kids that struggle. And then what happens is that if you don't do this movement and your body's not active, you can carry this through your entire life. So this is where we see adults that are having issues keeping a job down, having anxiety, depression, other things like that, because their body didn't have the need that was met when they were younger and didn't continue into the movement. My personal belief is that we're beings that are created to move.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So your business is, you focus on primarily coaching, but you own a wellness center. And so this is just a space where you have different types of rooms, right? Where people can be really active and maybe doing some more of that swinging and spinning. And then you also have really calming rooms. Is that right? Why don't you tell us a little bit about what your facility actually looks like to help with these sensory needs?
Yeah. Drea, you just got to come see it.
Yeah, it's gorgeous, you guys. You got to see pictures and you got to take a tour. It's amazing. But yeah, Faith, tell us about these different rooms. Because when I went there, I was like, I want to take that lamp home. I want to take all these. I'm like, this is speaking to me. It's beautiful.
So we have 2 what are called multi-sensory environments, or as a lot of our clients like to call them, calm rooms. So they have different lights and textures and swings and things like that. And then one of them actually even has a massage chair in it. Parents don't like that at all. So you can go 2 ways with it. You can put all the different input on and then take it away one by one. Or there's been instances with people with dementia or Alzheimer's or things like that where they actually escalated it and they helped that person be able to talk again for an hour. It wasn't permanent, but their systems were able to calm down. Because in both sides of life, there can still be sensory issues going on. The other things that we have is we have actually an infrared sauna, which is a newer thing for us, which is great for lymphatic drainage, getting inflammation out of your body. It has it's a medical grade, so it's chroma key therapy. I know I personally have enjoyed it.
Oh yeah.
And then we have, the other part of our gyms, we have a 6,000 square foot gym, as we have multiple different swings that have, if you kind of think, an occupational therapy. So if you don't know what occupational therapy is, there's different ways to sit, ride, slide, on all the kinds of things. So we have swings. We have a large 5 foot by 8 foot ball pit. And there is an event room that's available for rent as well. I will mention, because I did say that we're kids through adults though, is that we do have a toddler area.
Yeah. Yeah, it's if you guys go there, it's seriously super impressive. It's Faith did an amazing job designing this entire place too. So there's something for everybody there, definitely. I mean, you don't have to have a diagnosis. I mean, I think a lot of times people think of somebody who has a sensory need, and like you said, everyone has sensory needs, right? Whether we know it or not, what triggers us, things like that. But a lot of times I think people think autism or ADHD or some kind of cognitive, diagnosis. But it doesn't mean that you can't go to sensory coaching and you can't, anybody could do this, right? If they have some kind of issue or behavior or just little things. So what are some examples of some behaviors that parents might see of kids who don't necessarily have a diagnosis, but could really benefit from what you do?
Definitely. So I'm trying to think about some of the people even that we've served and things like that. Somebody who, a lot of emotional breakdowns we see a lot, and just combative behaviors. A lot of parents where they don't feel like they can bring their kid out. I will mention too, most diagnoses don't actually happen until at least age 3. And for our facility, you do not have to have a doctor's recommendation to come and do sensory coaching. Which is a really big deal for a lot of parents, because we have, at least in our area, a really long wait list to get any kind of help. And if you were like me, you were I would do anything to be able to sleep at night.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah. If your kid's up 10 times a night and they're not infants, this is not something you should be dealing with, right? There might be something more, for example.
Correct.
So how does that work? Like, walk me through a little bit of the science behind this. So if a family is like, you know what, I think my child could really benefit from this, they contact you, they come and do some coaching. For a child like your son who just needed more movement and more stimulation and some specific things, is this like a daily thing that they need in order to kind of calm down and function well? Is this like a weekly thing that you would recommend? Like, and obviously every kid is going to be different, but what should a parent kind of expect from, I mean, this is a lifelong journey, right? Of needing stimulation and needing movement and doing things well for our bodies and our brains. But how do you set up or determine what the path will look like for a parent for their child to have success?
I think it's really going to depend on the family. Some parents are willing to do more than others, and that's okay. Because everybody has different lives, different like expectations that they need to do. So part of the coaching program is that we can help with teaching what they might need for sensory needs. And then make recommendations from there. So parents are allowed to see some of the session as well. We don't lock parents out. We have a very open door policy. And when they learn those activities, it's things that they're going to learn like, oh, my kid needs a lot of heavy work. Here's some practical recommendations that you can take home as well. So now for coaching, for reflexes, depending on the individual, it's around 30 days per reflex. And that's also whether they're being consistent with home exercises that can be fluctuating. Sure. But we keep it reasonable. It's like you're doing 10 of these a day or, like twice a day. It's not like an hour long or half hour long rigmarole you need to put your kid through. So
could you almost, I mean, I don't want to use this terminology necessarily to like take it out of context, but you said that there's really long wait lists, especially for occupational therapy. Is this almost like an occupational therapy replacement, or at least like something that they can do while they're on the wait list?
So I will definitely say that we're not therapists.
Right. Yeah.
But yes, I believe that it could be. And we have a lot of clientele that have found us to be extremely beneficial. In fact, and I know mom's okay with me talking about it. She's excited. She's like, share it with everybody. We have a set of 15-year-old boys that we've been working with that were adopted, and they've been through all the different therapies, and they were not making progress. They made some, but when they hit stuff with us, like they couldn't even put their arm and their leg up at the same time. And now within 3 months, we had them climbing over things and doing typical teenage boy things that their parents weren't sure that was going to happen. And now one of them, their daily living skills are getting better, which is really what the reflexes are that we focus on.
Right. And their confidence too. I'm sure they're probably very excited as well.
Correct.
Yeah.
So they have definitely blossomed into reminding the parents some of this is normal teenage boy behavior.
Yeah, that's kind of hard too. Yeah. To decipher what's normal and what's not, right? With any age too, I suppose.
Correct. Because a lot of these individuals that we do see do need a lot of extra help.
Sure.
So.
Yeah.
So what does it look like to work with you on an ongoing basis? Do you have a monthly membership? Is it really just custom to each family with one-on-one sensory coaching? What other options do you have? And then how do they take advantage of contacting you?
Yeah, so we do have the coaching. So coaching is in a package. So we'll discuss with you based on the assessment. So everybody's different. So everybody's package and recommendation is a little bit different. And we can talk about that in the assessment with you. The other thing we do is currently an open play membership, where you can come in anytime during the open play hours to come and utilize the equipment kind of like you would at a regular gym, except sensory wise.
It's like an indoor playground. It really is. It's like a little playground that you can swing on things. I was telling Faith when I was there touring her place, it's like my kids would just freak out. They would love that place. Just the climbing and the swinging and the twisting and all these other things. They got a ball pit there, you guys. It's pretty cool.
And the fun part is you can actually play with them. We have a lot of parents that they notice for themselves because they're playing with their kids. Their mental clarity is actually better after they've come and used the facility. For some reason, we all stopped playing, right? Because we had to grow up, right?
Yeah. Boring adults. Yeah.
It's actually funny because when you were talking about the vestibular sensory system, that definitely makes me think of my experience recently. So my kids are now 9 and 6. And so we've been doing a little bit more of the Bay Beach type rides and even ones that are a little bit more extreme than that. And I remember loving those when I was a kid, but because I've grown up and become boring, as we're saying, I just don't get on those things very often. But now that my kids are older, I'm getting back on the tilt-a-whirls and back in the scramblers, and holy moly, it makes you like nauseous when you're not used to it. But I've been really trying hard to get on them anyway and like rebuild that sensory system for myself and rebuild that tolerance. And it's actually like working, and I actually have been enjoying it. So it's just funny how you can, you go through seasons of life where you are experiencing these things, they decrease, but you're right. I can totally see how when you were talking about the brain connection and stuff, how this could benefit adults as well to come and play with their kids.
Just a quick thought on that. It's really interesting because most people, when they loved vestibular input as a kid, they actually hate it as an adult now.
Really? I think there are people, we've talked to some friends that are like, I will never do that tilt-a-whirl
But is
again.
it because you're afraid of being sick, or is it because you actually like your body can't handle it? So tell us your thoughts on that, Faith.
I think it might be more of like, if you're thinking about it, your muscle, you used it a lot when you're younger and all of a sudden you just stopped using it. So now the body is trying to remember back to what it is. I can't claim I know like the technical version of what it is, but
that's just so interesting.
It's the same thing with,
I think
like,
I'm just stubborn. I'm like, I am going to do this again because I'm not going to be a lame mom that sits on the sidelines. So
yeah,
it's actually really good for you though, because the more like you activate your vestibular proprioception, like the better off you're going to be as you age.
Aging
there you
well.
go. Get on the tilt-a-whirl, people.
We love that.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for giving us this introduction, Faith. In our next episode, we're going to be talking about connected-based sensory parenting. So this is going to be great for everybody who are parents out there. And then we do have some more episodes coming up. We're going to be talking about trauma and how sensory coaching can actually really help in this area, as well as technology in the brain. So what are those screens doing to our littles' brains? We're going to be talking about that as well. So stay tuned for some more episodes with Faith coming up. If you enjoyed this episode, would you consider leaving a rating or review or sharing it directly with a friend who could benefit from the information? We know that you're a busy mom or caregiver, and our goal is to make your life easier by bringing tips and tricks directly from experts into your earbuds. By sharing this episode with someone you love, you can play a critical role in helping to make their life easier as well. We appreciate your time, and thank you for being a part of the Motherhood Alliance family.